Hello, Jody. How are you?
Hi, Hunter. I'm good. I'm so excited to be here with you.
I'm so excited to have you. And hello, listener. I am super excited to have Jody in the house today.
My name is Jody Brown, and I was actually a hairstylist for 15 years, daughter of a hairstylist and salon owner. And now I do full-time marketing, content creation, and education.
Jody helps me with my marketing and my social media and things like that. And she'll be like prompting me and asking me the questions that you may have on your mind. So, Jody, thank you so much for being here to do that with me today. So, Jody, you know my story, right? Like,
I do.
you do know my story. Okay. Well, for those of you who don't know my story about how I moved out to a brand new area to live with my ex-boyfriend. Don't ever move for a man, y'all. That is the lesson that I learned from that.
Preach.
I moved to a brand new area, much more rural and more conservative than where I grew up, and I built my original clientele. And I started working and opened up my own salon in that space, a salon suite. And I was very quickly able to blow it up to 3.5 months book solid, 5 new client requests a week. And I learned a lot from that experience.
Right.
And I found that a lot of the marketing studying and also just the personal experience that I had with that has been able to translate really well in how I teach others how to grow their clientele. And it's become like a proven, repeatable thing that I teach. And so I think that what would be cool to do today is going into depth with that story and how that all played out for me.
Yes, I've heard this story and I've actually been dying to break this down even more because I think that's a very impressive feat
Yeah.
to blow up that quickly. And so I'm curious, you opened the salon suite. What was your first kind of plan of attack when it came to getting this off the ground and getting the clients in the door?
Yeah, I think it was client experience first and foremost. I talk about a lot how like I've talked before about how, if you had to choose like which department of your business is the most important to focus on first, whether that be your administrative stuff, or your client experience or your marketing, right? So like how you get new clients into the door or how your social media is, should we focus on that first? Should we focus on client experience first? Should we focus on our back end stuff being taken care of first? Like for me, it's like client experience is first and foremost because
Mm,
every single time you have a new client come into your door, you've spent effort or time or space getting that new client into the door,
yeah,
right? And you don't want that to go to waste. You want that new client to actually come back.
right.
And if your client experience isn't amazing in the first place, then you're going to have a really hard time getting that person to come back. And then all your marketing efforts go to waste.
For sure.
Furthermore, it's really hard to market something if you don't have a great
Right.
experience. And on the flip side of that, it was also just really diving deep into my specialty as well too, and how my specialty aligned with my experience, right?
Right.
And I think that's honestly like the biggest thing was the specialty and like me diving really deep into that, and then aligning it with the client experience and exemplifying that as much as I could with my content. So yeah,
What was your specialty?
low maintenance color. Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
uh, I kind of like at the time it was like I never cornered myself into being like a blonde low maintenance person. That was never my thing. I liked, and this is for those of you who are like, I'm afraid to niche down and like not do everything, or not do just one thing forever.
Right.
I was a low maintenance highlight specialist. Like that's what I did.
Right.
And so I did like all types of like brunette highlights and caramel highlights, and I also did blonding a lot of as you do when you are that specialty.
Right.
But yeah, that's what I leaned into, and that's what I did the majority of the time.
I love that. So that was kind of what year did you open?
2021.
2021.
Yeah.
Okay. So what role do you feel like, because you were in a rural area, right?
Yep.
So would you say it was like small town?
Yes.
Like, okay. So,
It's Amish country.
okay,
Like
okay.
literally farms, horse and buggies on
Right.
the motherfucking street. Like
Right.
like literally on the street, you are swerving around the horse and buggies, and there's horse shit on the road.
Wow.
Like
Okay.
very much that.
Okay, so so what made you how did you know that niche and that like specialization you'd have a market for it? Like how did you determine that?
Well, honestly, it was just like what I really love to do.
Okay.
And I think that, I think it's okay to, if like when you're choosing your specialty, I think it's okay to consider like what are the gaps and
Hmm.
like figure out like is there a market for this? Like I think that's important
Hmm.
to consider. But I think what's first and foremost important to consider is like what do you actually enjoy doing and what are
Mm,
you an expert doing? And
hmm.
that's just what I enjoyed doing when I was an expert doing. And I was like, And it's just naturally, fortunately, a niche that is needed
Right.
everywhere, no
Right.
matter where you go. So I was confident that, I'd be able to make it work.
Right. How did that affect the way that you marketed? Like, was there ever a fear when you first opened that you maybe were going to be too niche for the size of the town that you were in?
Right. Yeah, very
Yeah.
much so. Particularly, I feel like a lot of the time when you're doing like low maintenance highlighting, it's very often you'll see like younger girls with like long, beautiful, like curled hair.
Right.
You know what I mean? And when you're in like a rural small town, like you may not find that there's a lot of people who maybe vibe with that or relate with that,
Right.
but there ended up being a lot of people who vibe and relate with that. And I think that also too, like my ideal client and who I was speaking to was never like of a certain age, and it didn't have a certain hair length to it either. It was just about the highlights,
Right.
right? And again, this is where I'm saying like you don't have to corner yourself, but you can still lean into something that is specific and make it work as far as a specialty goes. But yeah, I don't know. Honestly, like leading up to opening up my own salon suite, I had a huge pit in my stomach. Like it
Right.
was like terrifying for me to sign up for, opening that thing up with no clientele basically.
Right.
But I had done a lot of my homework of like figuring out like just marketing strategy just
Right.
in general, and I had been a business I had done a lot of business education, particularly around like sales and retail and add-ons and things like that, and giving a great client experience. Like I
Right.
already had a lot of that knowledge from being an educator
Right.
and for a brand.
Right.
And I just was fascinated with marketing, and I just felt like I was equipped with the tools that I needed and the knowledge that I needed to make it work. And I was willing to do the shit that was required and work OT to make it work.
Right.
So I knew what I was good at. I knew how to get the message across of what I do and that I'm the expert in it.
Right.
I understood the person that I was speaking to and what their pain points were related to my specialty, and how to share with somebody like, hey, this is possible. Like you could have beautiful highlights
Right.
that last you more than 3 months. And actually they'll look great even when you come back to see me.
Right.
Like you'll have people the day that you're getting your hair done giving you compliments about your hair, and you haven't even got your hair done yet. Right. And so I just knew the language that I needed to use to be able to connect with those people, to make them understand the value in my service
Right.
and fit their lifestyle as well too.
Right. Oh,
The other thing I think that was a massive um, attribution to my success was you could probably, and this is just like what my clients have shared with me, you could just like feel my passion for for what I did.
right.
Like I was so willing and committed to serving my clients. And it's always been that for me. Like
Yeah.
like even with doing hair, it's always been about like the passion and the impact. Like
Right.
it was never the money for me. And I will say like that comes with privilege. You have to have privilege to be able to make that your first and foremost
For
priority.
sure.
But I think clients feel that and notice it and appreciate it. And I heard that all the time. Like they would just be so like, Hunter, like it's just really nice to see how passionate you are and how
Yeah.
much you actually care about the service that we're doing today and how
Right.
much you care about what I leave here with. And I think that translates into the education that I do now too. Is just like I just really give a shit about it and I really love freaking doing it,
Yeah.
and the money side of it comes after. And I think that that's what really helped me blow up as well too, was I would post not just about the hair, but also like when I did post about the hair, I would talk about like how much detail and care I put into
Right.
making sure that it was good
Mhm.
and that that client was taken care of, and how I showed how I made relationships with my clients with the stories that I would tell with those posts. Then I would also be talking about my client experience and talk about why I did this so that you could have a great experience with me, like my thought behind it, but making it framed for it's in service of for you, like it's
Right.
all about you. Yeah, I think a lot of passion came with the success.
I love that, and I think that's contagious too, because then your clients feel that passion, they're excited, and then they're telling people. So I love
They feel
that.
like they're a part of something. Like making
Exactly.
somebody feel like they're a part of something, I think is a really powerful thing to do. And
Yeah.
so like if you are like specializing in something and you're making a difference doing it,
Right.
like you can make a lot of buzz and noise if you are really solving a problem in a big way and making people feel really excited and happy with what you're doing for them.
I love that. Were there any like unexpected challenges in that first year? Like, was there anything that happened that you're like, oh my God, that I was not expecting this to be this hard?
Yeah, two things. The first thing was being in a salon suite, as anybody who's opened up a salon suite knows, if people aren't already sharing really personal things with you or talking about controversial things with you that you don't agree with
Right.
already, or like trauma dumping on you already, like it really
Right.
gets amplified when you're in a salon suite because it's just you and that person,
Mhm.
and it feels so safe and private. I found I found I had to navigate a lot of people like just dumping their trauma on
Right.
me like all the time, which I was able to figure out how to navigate. It's just like communicating and be like, hey, like this feels a little bit heavy for me right now.
Right.
If you don't mind if we just talk about something later, I'd really appreciate it. Although I love being a safe space for you, today's just a little bit heavy for me, and I'd appreciate if we could move on to a different topic.
Right.
Something like that. Even if it was like political, same concepts. Second thing that ended up happening was it was way too fucking much,
Right.
like the 3.5 months book solid, 5 new client requests a week, but then also like really confronting the new challenge of being a business owner and the amount of responsibility that came with that.
Right.
We, in our last episode, we were talking about if the grass is greener,
Yeah.
with being an employee. And I have personal experience of getting into that salon suite for the first time and being absolutely disgustingly overwhelmed,
Right.
like working my ass off,
Right.
working my absolute ass off, like going, like I remember I would go to my friends' houses and we'd like watch a movie or something.
Yeah.
I'd like pull out my laptop and like start working
Right.
like while I'm like hanging out with my friends. Like that is like so like that's so stupid. Like that's like not a life worth living. And I kind of had like a realization like how is this supposed to be like a long-term sustainable career path
Right.
if it's always going to be like this? And so that's kind of what brought me to what I'm doing now today, which is like teaching people how to streamline things because I had to streamline things. Like I had to set boundaries, but I also was really passionate about making sure the business was successful. So I wanted to do that all in a way in which it wouldn't jeopardize my success. And that's what I freaking did. And I did it
Yeah.
successfully.
Yeah.
So
That's amazing.
yeah.
Was it hard? And like, were you nervous to roll out
Yes.
the new things? Talk me through that. What was that like for you?
Like all of my systems and boundaries and shit like
Because
that.
it's proven now, right?
Yes.
When you did
It
it,
was not.
that was not proven. It could have just like blown it up for
No,
you.
because that is so tea. Like when I decided that I was going to change my pricing structure, raise my prices like a fuck ton.
Right.
Like I'm not like I raised my prices like $100 within the span
Wow.
of like 6 months.
Right.
Like that was no
That's a
joke.
lot. Yeah.
I was online booking only moving forward. Like that was what it was. I stopped pre-booking. Like this all at the same time.
Wow.
Like I ripped the band-aid off all at the same time, right? I was terrified. Like I absolutely was terrified.
Right.
And it didn't, and yes, like every time you have evidence of a fear not coming true when you actually do it,
Yeah.
it makes the next time you have to do it easier, but it's still always going to be scary. Like every single time you roll out a change, like a price increase or whatever it may be, it's always going to be scary, right? But that was a lot. Like
Right.
I had done a price increase before that happened, but this was like I'm changing everything. And I was scared, but I also knew that I had built a strong enough foundation that I would be okay no matter what.
Right.
The other thing I knew was that I had set up every single thing in the best way possible for the clients to still have amazing experience with me.
Right.
Like I knew that I was taking good care of these clients, and also all the changes that I was making was going to allow me to serve them even better.
Okay.
And so I think that that's the important thing is like when you are doing a price increase, when you're changing your structure, when you decide that you're not going to work Saturdays anymore,
Right.
think about how does this benefit the client?
Right.
Like, because it does.
Yeah.
It absolutely does because you need to have your cup full to be able to pour into others. A price increase allows your most loyal clients to be able to get a more convenient appointment with you because you don't have your clients who aren't willing to pay more taking up those spots.
For sure.
Like it's just having that perspective I think is really important, and that's what the biggest thing that helped me roll all that shit out
Right.
was like remembering I set this up professionally in the best way possible, still offering a great client experience. I've done the work to make it so I have a steady foundation to where if I do have fallout from this price increase and these structural changes, I'll be just fine.
Right.
And also, it's all mutually beneficial for me and the client at the end of the day.
Do you remember, was there like a straw that broke the camel's back when it came to
Yes.
this, like making this decision?
Yes, Jody. And I feel like I've told this story a million times, but I know that you're going to tell me to just say it again. So I'm just going to say the story again.
You're reading my mind.
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, there were many things. There were many indicators that I needed to change shit.
Right.
But I remember one time and I was working a lot. Like I was really overworking myself.
Right.
Like it was ridiculous. Like I was working like 6 days a week.
Oh, wow.
And long hours doing so. And I remember my client Anne, who I absolutely love. I actually went to high school with her. She wanted to get in on like a Friday evening, and she had like an event or like a vacation or something that she was going to. And I was like, and I was already booked for like an 8-hour day on Friday. That I was like, okay, screw it. Like I'll throw her into the end of the day and I'll stay a little bit longer. So it ended up being a 12-hour day. We were just doing like a cute little balayage on her, like as I do with like many people. I went to tone her, and her hair was turning purple.
Oh
And
gosh.
her hair was
We've
not.
all had that moment.
Yeah. Her hair was turning purple, and her hair was not supposed to be turning purple. It was supposed to be like a pretty natural gold situation. And I like go back over to my mixing station, and I look, and I grabbed an 8-2 instead of an 8-3, which is an 8 violet instead of an 8 gold. And the 8 violet was not just like a cute little like light lavender. It was like it's like fucking
she was
purple.
purple. Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, love that for me. I was able to color correct it, and like, and she didn't even notice. Like it was fine. Like I just like double toned it, like used gold to
Right.
neutralize it. It was fine, whatever. But the principle was, I realized that I messed that up because I was exhausted.
Right.
Like it was a 12-hour day. Like I was so tired, and I had already worked a full week, right? I had been consistently overworking myself already. And I don't think that would have happened if I wasn't so exhausted and I wasn't overstretching my availability and how much I serve people.
Right.
And with that, I did a disservice to myself because I had to deal with the stress, the shame of effing up her hair.
Yeah.
I had to eat costs because I had to double tone it, right? And then it could have been a lot worse for me as well too. And then I did her a disservice because I effed up her hair.
Right.
And that's not what she's here for.
Right.
You know, I'm sure Anne would rather come to me after her vacation, not have the hair of her dreams for her vacation,
Right.
versus her hair be fucked up in purple.
Yeah.
You know?
You're probably right.
So that was a big turning point for me. That's when I was like, damn, I really need to make a change.
Yeah.
And when I also another thing that just reinforced my idea of my theory of like, this is not just for me, it's for the client as well.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, a burnt out hairstylist or a burnt out service provider is not going to be like at that top form.
No, I don't want to go to a service provider of any sort who doesn't want to work with the style of whatever I want.
1000%.
Right? Like I want to go to the person who like loves the work that they're doing on me,
Yes.
the type of thing that I'm asking for,
Yeah.
because then I know that they're going to do a good job. I want to go to a service provider who is well rested and passionate about what they're doing and has enough rest to be able to do a great job. I want to go to a service provider who is working hours that make sense for them because I know that they're going to show up and do better. I want to go to a service provider who is making a great living because I know that they're not going to be resentful of what they're doing, and they're not just going to try to like get me in and out.
Yeah.
They're going to give me a quality service because they take pride in what they're doing and they're happy about the money that they're making. You know, it's like, think about you as a consumer. Like, who do you want to fucking go to?
Absolutely.
And what experience do you want to experience, and what's required of that, of the service provider? And think about what's required of you as a service provider to offer that experience.
I love that. It's so true. I think that's something that we kind of forget. We think that all the self-sacrifice is like for the benefit of everyone else, but oftentimes it really isn't.
It's not. And
Yeah.
there are times and spaces where sacrifice is essential. And I talk about this a lot, right? There is absolutely times where sacrifice is essential. But when it's so consistent where you like don't see a light at the end of the tunnel, or you don't really understand what like the long-term benefit of it even really is, when you are getting like chronically burnt out, then that's when it doesn't make sense.
Right.
You know, so there's value in sacrifice, but not when it's consistent and not when it's not actually getting you anywhere, because I was just on a hamster, like I was making great money.
Right.
I was serving people really like, okay,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
people were happy with their hair, but at what cost?
Yeah.
And it wouldn't make sense for me in the long run. I probably would have closed my salon suite.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
So after you were the guinea pig of all these like methods and systems, how did your clients react?
to
to
my
you, like the new
changes.
systems? Like, yeah,
Everybody
after
was
all this,
great.
yeah,
Yeah, I maybe had, I of course had fallout from a price increase. I raised my prices a shit ton.
right,
But that, that's just like to be expected, and I offered those people suggestions to go elsewhere,
yeah,
kindly and with grace and
mhm,
gratefulness. I had some people who were apprehensive with online booking because they just didn't feel super confident with technology,
right,
and that's gonna fucking happen. And I was like, I just reassured them that like I had set it up to make it super simple. They had to just choose from these three options, and
mhm,
this is the one that you're gonna choose every single time, Susie, because that's the one I do with you every single time.
right,
That's all you gotta fucking do.
right,
Super simple. And I'll walk you through it on your phone with you right now. I'll bookmark it to your phone. I'll give you this client only app so you can access it really easily.
right,
It's just like the majority of people will get on board as long as you've laid out the information simply and easily. You've done your due diligence of making your client experience amazing with those aspects,
yeah,
with whatever structural changes you're making, and it's easy to understand. The majority of people will be fine and get on board.
right,
Like, it just is what it is, as long as you're offering a great service at its core. And then the small few who aren't into it, who react negatively,
mhm,
they'll either leave, okay, bye.
yeah,
I like for me, I am not willing to work with people who aren't willing to get on board with me to do the things that I need to be able to give them a great
for
experience.
sure,
Like, this is essential for me to run my business and give you an excellent experience. And if you can't do that, I can't give you a great experience.
right,
So I'm just not going to fucking serve you anymore.
right,
And that's on you, sister.
right,
I've done my due diligence of setting this up to be as easy and a clean and convenient as possible.
yeah,
So you got to meet me halfway or else I can't do your hair. And there's plenty of other people who will be willing to do those things,
yeah,
you know?
for sure,
On the other flip side, let's say it's somebody who's like kind of willing to get on board, but they're feeling a little bit frustrated or apprehensive, whatever it may be. Then you sit down and you give them some personalized attention up front, and then they're good to go after that. You take their phone, you show them how to do it.
yeah,
You start to Another tip that I give for people who like want to like implement online booking or like do it as like a really like strict structure, like online booking only, right? um is like print out like booking cards, like write down like the cards can have like the instructions for online booking,
right,
and then you can write down exactly what they need to book online,
yeah,
right? An advanced strategy that I teach my students is like have an online booking page where like all the things are listed out on there, and then you embed your online booking onto that page,
right,
so that way you have full customized control of the page,
mhm,
and then your widget is on there, but then you also have like all the instructions that somebody needs on that for the further details that you may not be able to put on your online booking site, right? So there's fucking options. Like,
yeah,
you can, like, again, like, you can have the best of both worlds. Like, you can make it work, but you have to do your due diligence of setting it up so that way the client can do it confidently.
I love that. My last question, if you could go back and you could, restart, if you were restarting your salon suite, is there anything you would do differently?
I'm tempted to say I would not have overstretched myself.
Right,
I'm like tempted to say I would have had stronger boundaries in place
right,
if I were to start again, or like with the lessons I've learned. That's what I want to say.
right,
But if I didn't have those experiences, if I didn't sacrifice, if I didn't kind of screw myself over, I
yeah,
wouldn't be where I am today.
sure,
I wouldn't have learned the lessons that I've learned today. I also wouldn't have been able to be my own guinea pig to
right,
then help tons of other people with the same issue.
right,
I think I just generally, my philosophy is I don't really have a lot of regrets for things that I
yeah,
do, especially in my business, because I will always learn a lesson from it.
love
And
that.
there's always something that you can take from that and move forward with in a more positive light. So I wouldn't do anything differently.
I love that.
Yeah,
Well, now you're saving so many other hairstylists, from that phase.
that's the goal. Yes.
And I think that's, yeah, definitely something really special. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for letting me dig into your story a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.